All right, let's jump right in. Today we're deep diving into Yuval Noah Harari's Sapiens, a brief history of humankind.
We're tackling the whole of human history 300,000 years.
From like cave dwellers to, well, us. And we're working off the Blinkist summary so we can cover a ton of ground.
And Harari doesn't hold back, that's for sure.
First shocker, turns out, our good old Homo sapiens weren't the only humans around back then.
Oh, yeah, they had company, like the Neanderthals.
Neanderthals.
Yep. And get this, they actually had bigger brains than our ancestors.
No way. So what happened to them? Did they just fade away, or?
That's the million-dollar question. Two main theories. Either we kind of absorbed them, interbreeding and all that.
Like ancient romance?
Haha, maybe. Or option two, we outcompeted them. Survival of the fittest, brutal style.
Ooh, I'm kind of glad we can't time travel. Meaning those early humans might be a bit too intense for me.
Probably for the best. But speaking of intense, let's talk about what really set us apart. The cognitive revolution.
Right, a sudden brainpower boost. Sounds cool, but what made it so revolutionary?
Think about it. We got language, complex language. Suddenly, our ancestors could share detailed plans, tell stories, warn each other about danger.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty handy.
It's more than handy. It's the foundation for everything.
Because of language, we could imagine things that weren't physically there, like gods, money.
Wait, so you're saying our ability to believe in things that aren't real is what makes us human?
In a way, yes. Harari calls these common myths, these shared stories, beliefs, ideas.
Like the stuff that binds us together.
Exactly. Look at other animals. Bees communicate, but in a limited way. Chimps, well, they can be clever, but their trust is built on individual relationships, so their groups stay small.
So we humans are the only ones who can cooperate on a massive scale, even with complete strangers.
Bingo! Thanks to language and these common myths, we could coordinate huge groups, build empires, create complex systems.
It's kind of wild. Our ability to make stuff up is what led to civilization itself. It's a key ingredient, no doubt. And speaking of civilization, let's shift gears to the agricultural revolution. This one's a bit of a head-scratcher.
How so? Farming. Seems like a pretty obvious good thing, right?
You'd think so. But here's the catch. Farming actually meant more work for our ancestors. And worse food.
Seriously? Why would they go for that? I'd stick to hunting and gathering any day.
Right. It's a puzzle. But it happened slowly. Maybe each generation thought, okay, just a little more land, a few more crops. And before they knew it, there was no turning back.
And more crops meant more people, right?
Exactly, a population boom. Suddenly you need systems to manage all these people, bigger, more complex societies.
Which brings us to money and writing.
You got it. I mean, can you imagine bartering with hundreds of people? I'll trade you 3 chickens for a goat. It would be chaos.
Uh-huh. Total chaos. So money and writing were like the ultimate organizational tools.
Precisely. The Sumerians were pioneers here. They used barley as a form of payment and kept track of it all with written records.
So they basically invented accounting.
Pretty much. But here's the thing. Both money and writing rely on something intangible. Trust. You gotta believe that a little piece of paper or a clay tablet actually means something.
That goes back to the common myths idea, right? We gotta collectively agree that these symbols have value. So we've got larger societies, complex economies. I'm guessing things got a little harder to manage at this point.
You bet. And that's where empires and religion enter the scene.
Ah, the power players. But how did those develop?
As populations grew, you needed a way to keep things stable. Hierarchical societies emerged, with kings and emperors calling the shots.
So one person at the top, with everyone else falling in line.
Basically. And to solidify their power, they established uniform laws and customs.
Ooh, like a rule book for everyone.
Exactly. The Code of Hammurabi is a great example. It laid out clear punishments for crimes, trying to create order in a growing society.
Makes sense. But how do you get people to follow these rules? Especially when your kingdom is huge.
That's where religion comes in. It provided a way to legitimize power and enforce social order. If your ruler is chosen by the gods, you're more likely to obey, right?
It's like ultimate authority. So those shared beliefs, those common myths, play a huge role again.
You see the pattern. And as empires expanded, they often spread their religions, absorbing or displacing local beliefs.
So even back then, there was a kind of globalization happening, a merging of cultures and ideas.
You could say that, but hold on, because we're about to hit another turning point. The scientific revolution.
Ah, yes. the age of reason, of questioning, of looking at the world through a new lens.
Exactly. Suddenly, it wasn't just about accepting things as they were. Humans wanted to understand the why and the how.
It's like we finally started to grow up as a species, right?
I like that. We were becoming more curious, more inventive, more willing to push the boundaries of knowledge.
And that led to some mind-blowing discoveries. Think about the advancements in medicine, astronomy, physics.
The world was opening up in a whole new way, and this thirst for knowledge went hand in hand with exploration. Think Christopher Columbus, sailing across the ocean, backed by monarchs hungry for power and wealth.
Right. It was a time of incredible progress, but also the beginning of something darker.
The rise of European imperialism. A story for another time, perhaps.
A story for our next deep dive, for
Yeah.
sure. But it's amazing to think all this exploration and discovery, all this thirst for knowledge, it laid the groundwork for the modern world we live in today.
And it all stems from those key moments we've been talking about. The cognitive revolution, the agricultural revolution, the invention of money and writing, the rise of empires and religion. It's like a chain reaction, one innovation leading to the next.
It makes you realize just how interconnected human history really is.
Absolutely. Every invention, every idea, every conflict, it all contributes to the complex tapestry of human civilization.
And that brings us to capitalism.
Bingo! You can practically draw a straight line from those early empires to the global dominance of capitalism we see today.
It's kind of crazy to think about how much of our lives are shaped by forces that have been in motion for centuries, right?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. The clothes you're wearing, the food you eat, the phone you're probably using to listen to this, it's all connected to those early trade networks, to the rise of global capitalism.
It really makes you appreciate the long view of history, doesn't it?
Definitely. And it's interesting how capitalism and science, which both really took off around the same time, have this kind of push and pull dynamic.
How so?
Well, science keeps chipping away at traditional religious beliefs, right? Questioning the old stories, offering new explanations for how the world works. Right.
But at the same time, capitalism encourages us to focus on material success, on acquiring things, on getting ahead in this life.
So it's like we've kind of traded faith in gods for faith in the free market.
In a way, yeah. It makes you wonder, has all this progress actually made us any happier?
That's the big question, isn't it? I mean, we've got longer lifespans, better health care, access to information and entertainment that kings and queens couldn't have even dreamed of.
It's true, but it doesn't always feel that way, does it? There's always something else to strive for, some new gadget to buy, some bigger goal to achieve.
Yeah, it's like this never-ending treadmill. You work hard, you get a raise, you buy a nicer car, but then you just want a bigger house.
That's exactly what Harari calls the hedonic treadmill. We get used to positive changes, and our happiness levels tend to revert back to a baseline.
So no matter how much we achieve, we never really feel satisfied.
That's the paradox. And then you throw in social comparison, especially with social media. Ugh, don't even get me started on social media. It's like everyone's presenting this curated version of their lives, all perfect and happy and glamorous.
And it makes us feel like we're not measuring up, right?
Totally. It's a recipe for feeling inadequate. And then there's this whole issue of meaning,
Yeah, like, what's the point of it all? Many people in our modern secular world struggle to find a sense of purpose beyond just accumulating stuff.
It's like we're adrift, kind of lost, without those old traditions and beliefs to guide us.
It's a double-edged sword. We have more freedom, more choice, but it can also be overwhelming.
So it seems like the big challenge of our time is figuring out how to be content, how to find meaning, even with all this abundance and opportunity around us.
You hit the nail on the head, and it's something that Harari really grapples with in Sapiens. He doesn't offer easy answers, but he does make us think.
And that's what's so great about this book. It challenges our assumptions.
Absolutely. But hold on, get ready for another mind-blowing idea that Harari throws out there.
Oh, I'm ready. What is it?
He argues that globalization has actually led to a more peaceful world.
Really? But what about all the conflicts we see on the news every day? It seems like things are more chaotic than ever.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive. But Harari points out that since World War II, no independent nation has been conquered and eliminated by another. We're actually living in the most peaceful era in human history.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day headlines and lose sight of the bigger picture.
So why does Harari think globalization has made the world more peaceful?
Well, in our interconnected world, nations are so intertwined through trade and investment that war becomes incredibly costly for everyone involved.
Right. It's like a giant game of economic Jenga. If one piece falls, the whole structure could collapse.
Exactly. And that shared interest in stability, along with international institutions and diplomacy, has helped to prevent large-scale conflicts.
Okay, that makes sense. But it doesn't mean we can just sit back and relax, right? Peace is a fragile thing.
You're absolutely right. We have to actively work to maintain peace, to address the root causes of conflict, to create a more just and equitable world.
It's a constant effort, a collective responsibility.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, are you ready for another twist? Because Harari doesn't stop at the present.
Oh, I'm always up for a good twist.
Yeah.
What does he say about the future of Homo sapiens?
He takes us into the realm of, well, it almost sounds like science fiction, the Gilgamesh Project.
The Gilgamesh Project, was that?
Remember Gilgamesh, the ancient king who searched for immortality?
Oh, yeah. The epic tale.
Yeah.
So is Harari saying we're actually on a quest for immortality now?
In a way, yes. Think about the advancements in fields like bionics and anti-aging research.
Okay, yeah, things are moving pretty fast in those areas.
There's Jesse Sullivan, the electrician who received bionic arms that he controls with his thoughts.
I remember hearing about that. Amazing stuff.
And scientists have doubled the lifespans of worms through genetic manipulation.
Whoa. So you're saying that actual human immortality might not be as far-fetched as it sounds?
It's still in the realm of speculation, but the possibilities are mind-blowing. Imagine a world where death is no longer inevitable, where humans could live for centuries or even millennia.
It's hard to even wrap your head around the implications.
Exactly. It would revolutionize everything, our understanding of life, our values, our societies. It would be a whole new era for Homo sapiens.
It's exciting and a little terrifying at the same time.
You got it. And that's why Harari brings it up. We need to be having these conversations now while these technologies are still developing.
We need to think about the ethical implications, the potential risks and rewards, the long-term consequences for humanity.
It's a huge responsibility, and Sapiens really forces us to confront these big questions head on.
It's not just about understanding the past, it's about shaping the future.
Exactly. It's a roadmap for navigating this uncharted territory, for making conscious choices about the kind of world we want to create.
It's a lot to process, but it's incredibly important.
I couldn't agree more. And it makes this deep dive into Sapiens all the more relevant, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground from the dawn of humanity to the potential for technological immortality.
We've explored the complexities of capitalism, the paradox of progress, the surprising power of peace.
It's funny, right? We started by talking about those shared myths, the stories that brought us together, and now we're talking about creating new ones.
Yeah, it's like history repeating itself in a weird way.
So what kind of myths will define the future, do you think? Will it be all about technology?
Maybe. Will we worship AI as gods? Or will we find new stories that emphasize, our interconnectedness?
I guess it all depends on what we choose, right? How we
Yeah.
use this technology, what values we prioritize.
Exactly. This is where it gets really interesting. We're not just passive observers anymore. We're actively shaping the future of our species. We have the potential to create something truly remarkable, a future where technology helps us solve those big problems, those global challenges.
I like that. A future where tech makes us better, not just busier.
Right. But it won't happen magically. We need to be having these conversations, asking those tough questions about ethics, about risks, about the long-term impact on our planet.
That's what these deep dives are all about, challenging ourselves to think critically, to go beyond the headlines.
Absolutely. The more we understand, the better choices we can make.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. We've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from early humans to practically immortality.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? And Sapiens really gives you this amazing framework for understanding it all.
But before we wrap up completely, I want to leave our listeners with a question from Harari. He asks, what does the future hold for a species that can reshape itself with technology? What new stories will we tell?
It's a question worth pondering. What myths will guide us? What values will we embrace?
It's kind of poetic, right? We started with stories, and we'll end with stories. But the ones we choose to tell now will shape the future.
It's up to us to write the next chapter.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into Sapiens, a brief history of humankind. It's been an absolute pleasure exploring these ideas with you all.
Thanks for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this wild ride through time. And until next time, happy diving.